So it's a combination of both, taking action on what we already have and to not get too much into the analysis paralysis of thinking I have to have it all figured out before I take action on my life and my purpose and what I want to be creating in the planet. But also, I think it's super worthwhile to, before you embark on that journey and take it as a serious endeavor, to getting guidance from people and model success, because, success really is, at least in terms of an outward manner, is kind of like a formulaic approach, I feel like.
Totally. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to It's the Bearded Man podcast with your favorite, the world's favorite bearded man, Bobbbaaaay. Each week with our guest episodes, I try to put the spotlight on someone who, in my eyes, has given themselves permission to live a life that is authentic to them. Our guest today is from Livana, Michigan. I might have mispronounced that, but hopefully I didn't. He is a storyteller that shares wisdom. He previously was a creator with Logan Paul, where he helped shoot content and produce his Impaulsive Podcast. Now he's a founder of Meraki Media, a production company that encourages leaving a piece of your heart in your art, which I absolutely love. Today on the podcast, Andre Duqum, baby. He's here, baby.
Let's go.
Did I pronounce Michigan right? Livona?
Yeah, Michigan. It's Livonia. Is the pronunciation. It's all good. It's tricky.
Hometown is not going to be happy with me if anybody from there hears this podcast.
You're gonna have an army after you.
Oh, no,
you're good.
Hopefully that's not the case, man. You are so wise for your age, and I know you probably get told this probably very often because I've heard it in other podcasts and I've seen it in other visual pieces. But you are way ahead of your time. I think you're 25 today, and just your mindset, your perspective. It's not luck. It's definitely been a lot of deep work to become who you are today and create the reality that you're living in now. And I just want to say, as we get into this, going into this, I greatly respect and I admire who you are today. And I know you're just getting started, but it's really amazing how woke you are to life. It's really beautiful. I got to tell you, man.
Thank you, man. Super humbling. Yeah. I mean, listen, I just feel like I started kind of on the path of personal development at a kind of earlier age. At 15, 16, I kind of got involved with just learning different personal development courses and reading books and things. And I felt like this inner curiosity kind of evolved into the place I am today, which I'm happy to get into. But yeah, I turned 25 next month and I'm pretty happy with the way my life's going. I feel like
He's 24. He's 24 right now. Oh my God. Unbelievable.
Yeah, man. So I definitely feel like I live a pretty fulfilled life, and I'm very happy. And I feel like it is just the beginning. But I'm stoked to connect with you, and I think you're doing very similar work, trying to inspire kind of like the new earth, where we have this medium to be able to communicate with anybody from all walks of life, all across the planet, and we can really use our messages of awakening to inspire others to step into their power. And that's what we're doing here, man. So. Right back at you.
I appreciate the love, man. I appreciate the love. I know a piece of advice that you had gotten early on that I think has very much helped you get to who you are today and become who you are is take advice from people who have what you want. How important is that?
You're doing some research, huh? And listen to some other podcasts or reading stuff.
Oh, you already know, baby.
Yeah. I mean, dude, it's so fundamental to, one, achieving, success, outwardly manifested success. And then also you want to take advice from people in life who have what you want, who have been where you're at, or, who have qualities that you want to embody, because it's pretty fundamental to me. It's just, a simple understanding. If somebody hasn't embodied something, anybody can read a book, anybody can hear a cliche quote and say it, but I personally don't want to take advice from people. I'll listen to anybody, but take really, it deeply unless they have, some embodiment or the manifestation results in their life, whether it's physical fitness. If I want to get in shape or I have a certain physique or, functionality that I want to have in my body, I'm not going to go to somebody who's extremely obese. And that's no slight on obese people, to each their own. It's just for me that, you got to take advice from people who have what you want in life. And so that's across the board. If I want to achieve a higher state of well-being, peace, and love within my life, I'm going to listen to people who I feel imbibe that frequency. And that first takes an awareness first and kind of seeing past a lot of the facade that people put on gain a certain appearance, to have a certain validation within themselves. But it's absolutely fundamental, and it's done me well, from different arenas in building my business to my physical health to, my relationships. I'm going to go to somebody who has a successful relationship that's been happy for a while, if I'm looking to get, advice or guidance in my personal relationship. But again, everybody can have value. And I feel like everybody has a little piece that, that they can share that inspires me. So I definitely learn from everyone, but I definitely use that kind of as a guiding star and have for a while.
Sometimes the right step is too simple that it seems too obvious. Like, how could asking somebody advice be the right thing to do? But it's sometimes just asking for that advice is the right step that inevitably gives you the answer that you need. But I think sometimes for people, it seems too obvious, like to ask the question, or we're scared to reach out to people and say like, hey, I don't know what I'm doing. I see that you're doing it really well. Like, could you give me that piece of advice? And I just think there's like there's something inside of people that they want to help people. You just need to be willing to have the courage to ask for the help.
Absolutely. And to be honest, most of us really know what we need to do anyways. That's not really the issue. A lot of times it can be, guidance. Hey, go in this direction, try these things. But a lot of us know what it takes to eat healthy, to get in shape, to learn things that we want to. It's taking it into practice. There's a big knowing and doing gap, I think. So it's a combination of both, taking action on what we already have and to not get too much into the analysis paralysis of thinking I have to have it all figured out before I take action on my life and my purpose and what I want to be creating in the planet. But also, I think it's super worthwhile to, before you embark on that journey and take it as a serious endeavor, to getting guidance from people and model success, because, success really is, at least in terms of an outward, an outward manner is kind of like a formulaic approach, I feel like. And,
totally.
Totally.
Yeah. It's actually very much a formula: consistency, reps, looking to learn, like all these like cliches that you hear on a day-to-day that people kind of potentially could dismiss. It's very much out there. You just have to stay consistent long enough and be willing to learn and be willing to accept that failure is really part of the whole process. And you inevitably will get to exactly where you want to be. Something about you that I know for a fact is that you are definitely in a space now within your life where you just take action, right? Like you just, when you have that idea, whether it's maybe in the past when it was like conceptually an idea for a piece of content, now it's a business idea, you just execute. But getting started is such a hard step for anybody that's listening, whether it's a passion project, a new career path, fitness. Knowing what you know now, what is the piece of advice you would give to that younger self who maybe was overthinking everything and instead of just actually getting started?
Yeah, man, it kind of just goes back to like, it's really easy to think that you have to have it all figured out before you take the first step. And so much of the process of actually, self-actualizing is learned and discovered in the process of doing. So it's important to not, again, get back into into the thinking mind, trying to figure it all out before you take action. But it's like, you learn so much by doing, and you can make course corrections as you go. So important not to try to have it all figured out before you take action in your life. So yeah, I mean, that's the biggest thing, is like taking the first step in building the kind of the confidence. And for me, it's been a morning practice that has been so fundamental in building the confidence within myself, that I know if that I want to achieve something or get something, I already have the kind of background, the whole saying, they're neurons that fire together, wire together, right? It's like the more we do something, the more secondhand it goes to doing it again more easily. And so building the confidence that like, hey, I'm going to do a morning practice, and maybe it's 5 minutes meditation in the morning, something super simple, but something that gives you the ability to build on and gain that confidence within yourself that you can follow through on something and kind of build the character. And then eventually you can, say, hey, I want to commit to working out an hour a day, or, hey, I want to commit to a longer commitment, a 45-minute meditation practice, or, reading a certain amount of books per month or per year. It's like these big overarching goals, these things that we, if we create as habits, actually create who we are, get built over time. And it's important not to kind of get too terrified by the big mountain that you want to climb, but really just take the first step of building the small habits, and then it kind of grows over time.
Yeah, what you just said right there is so, so important. And this was something that I dug up in a past interview that you had talked about. Two things I want to call out. One, it's not a matter of time, it's priority, which is, it is so, so true. It's about what do you want to do with the 24 hours a day that you have, and how are you prioritizing the things that matter most to you? And then secondly, like what you're talking about, whether it's reading a book once a month or whatever, you talk about, and in a past interview as well, as like the importance of creating almost like minimums for tasks that you want to do daily. How can you kind of go off of just not only prioritizing what matters most to you and building boundaries around it, but then also, you know, holding yourself accountable to actually showing up to do those minimums?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, man. I think first off, it's really important to like discover what you want out of life. So many people, and if you were just to go around asking 100 people, what do you want? Like, what do you want out of this life? 95% of people would stumble. They wouldn't know. They wouldn't have something to really tell you. They wouldn't give you a clear answer. And so that to me tells me that they don't know the direction of their life they're going. They haven't consciously chosen. For me, that's a successful person, a person that has decided what they want and are taking active steps to actually make that manifest. So that's the first step, is like going back into stillness, going back into a place where you can kind of undo and unlearn the wiring that unfortunately the education system has, you know, played a big part in programming us to believe what is possible, to create an ideal of what success is with the white picket fence and the successful job and 401k and the whole story, you know, and retiring at 70 or 80 years old or whatever the average retirement age is now. So it's like taking a step back. And I believe that there's an intelligence deep within us that you can start to listen to and you can start to really have an ear for, but it takes first to get away from the noise. And then once you have a clear mission, once you have a clear direction that you first want to step into, right? You don't have to have it all figured out once again. But once you have, you know, a life that feels truly fulfilling to you, because I take myself out, you know, we're living with 8 billion people on this massive rock hurling through space. And it's like, I really want to make the most out of this life. I want to impact and become, you know, the most aligned version of myself. And that's a process of discovery that takes going into silence to really discover. And then again, that's a process that continually evolves over time as well. But then once you have a direction and you have kind of a desire, an overarching mission that you want to go out there and create on the planet, then you can, you know, reverse engineer and model other people who have done similar things in similar industries. Take yourself back and start to build those small habits.
Yeah, it's the thing is, it is over, because I just 5 years ago, I was in that space of not knowing the direction. And it was the scariest thing in my life, because I had just graduated top business school. I'm like, by the time I graduate, I'm going to have this all figured out, the perfect blueprint. And I did not know. And that moment of not knowing and waking up every day with just a big question mark is very mentally, it can ruin you, because you just don't know. And so you do exactly what you're just talking about, of like, you're conscious that you don't know, but you kind of put in the unconscious because you just want to live life and you just want to forget about it. But you know it is something that you have to attack head on. And that stillness and those solitude moments of actually slowing down and asking yourself, what is it that I really want to do? The greatest question, I think, sometimes can allow people to get on the right direction of where they want to go, or can help them shake things up if they're heading down a path they don't feel is good for them, is, if money was not a problem, how do you want to spend your time on this earth? Because if you strip away that, what's the thing that you want to do? That's the thing that you should find a way to make a living do. Because if money isn't an issue, what do you want to do? Like, do you want to travel? Okay, then work in the travel space. Do you want to help people? Well, there's a magnitude of different ways, but it's when people hear you speak, it can, for somebody that is in that process, it takes time. Like, this is almost probably, for you at least, 8 to 10 years in the making. So it's like, ladies and gentlemen, don't get overwhelmed. You are literally a product of putting in the time to ask yourself those deep questions, and then almost like revisiting them over the years of like, is this still my true north? And you know, there has been some changes for you in those last couple of years, and it's just clear to me that you're very woke to like, oh, this was cool for a couple of years, but let's change it up. And then now you're building a business, and maybe in 3 to 5 years, you'll be on a different path. But it's that constant of, you don't need to have the perfect blueprint. you're writing the script as you go, you're writing the blueprint as you go, and you make these adjustments as needed.
Beautifully said, man. Absolutely. I agree 100%, and I've had every 2-3 years kind of like a pivot, of like, oh, I learned a lot in this field doing this, working with this person. And then I take that and I apply it into where my kind of inner calling, my heart is kind of pushing me into the next direction, kind of like an inner thread that is pulling me to what makes me come most alive? What would I feel like is a life well lived? Discovering these things. And again, it's a process of one, discovery. You learn in the process, right? And then there's something there's something that's just innate within us that I feel like we all kind of come in here with our own unique purpose. I don't like to use that word too much because it's kind of dirty and it means a lot of things to a lot of people, but we all have our own unique fingerprint, just like we have our own unique genius. And it takes a lot of time to the doing, and going back into the stillness to really discover what that is. So that's been a process for me for sure. And it's a continual process.
Talk to me about kind of going off like the whole pivoting, right? When you're at this moment when you're 2 years in with Logan Paul, outside looking in, people are like, he's got it made. He's living the dream. He's traveling the world. He's having the time of his life with these guys. And I would imagine a lot of people outside looking in were shook when you were deciding and you made like the announcement video of like, hey, I'm moving on. Like, this isn't for me. I recognize this is a great opportunity, but like, this isn't where I need to be. And I think, and with that there was a part of that where you had looked at, I think it's called Ikigai. I'm definitely mispronouncing that. But talk to me about how looking at that, you recognize like it's actually time. Everything else looking in, this is a great opportunity. I am having a great time with these guys, but this isn't my true north. How did that kind of make sense to you?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. I came out to LA 5-6 years ago, wanting to go more into cinematography and filmmaking. And I love the impact that storytelling can really have on people. I'm sure everybody who's listening to this, you've seen a piece of content, a film, something that you watch and it fundamentally changed the way that you view the world and maybe the actions that you take and how you interact with the world. And so for me, I knew that I really wanted to get into storytelling. I was developing my skill set. An opportunity happened to open up through a good friend, Spencer, to go work with Logan. And so kind of long story short, to get to that point, I essentially moved in with Logan and traveled the world with him for, 2 years, lived with him for 2 years. It was, kind of a lot of people from the outside looking in would say, oh, you made it. You're living in an $8 million mansion. You have a private chef. You're getting paid well. You're living with, meeting all these celebrities. And it was great. I learned so much, man. I'm not gonna lie. I learned so much skill set wise, grew my belief in myself. Being around with somebody who's also so young, doing things at such a big scale, really stretches you. It really increases your capacity to believe what is possible. And so you start believing much bigger, much sooner, which I think is an amazing gift. Because time is, life is ultimately is just the amount of, certain time and energy. And the more that you can really believe in yourself and what you want to create in the world, the more you can create more energy to do things at a bigger scale earlier. And then, you're living a life that most people wouldn't achieve in 2 or 3 lifetimes, but because you have so much energy and you're really following your passion and purpose, then it kind of comes online. So it got to a certain point, right? Getting to the pivot point of where about 1.5 years, 2 years in, I was, helping him produce a documentary. We were doing a lot of vlogs, some really cool pieces. I intentionally went into the house not to just be a videographer for, somebody that was well known, but I really saw the opportunity that I had to impact somebody that had a reach to millions and tens of millions of people. And I thought, if I can positively impact this one person's life, and at the time, Logan was kind of going through a metamorphosis of his own, he's really growing through some things. He had a humbling experience. And I saw it as an opportunity where I was like, this man, I know he has a good heart. He made a fumble. He made a mistake and he's learning from it. And he really is taking the advice from people around him. And I happened to come into his life around, a time just after that. And it was a beautiful opportunity for me to be able to pour my gifts and my knowledge and experience into him and for him to pour his codes into me. Because that dude is brilliant. Like he is so smart and well beyond his years. And is creating some beautiful things on and off air right now. And so Yeah, that was the intention going in there. And, about a year and a half in, I kind of created my own sanctuary within the house. There was this kind of like an evolved fraternity where we're making videos every day. We, all the things are taken care of us, are taken care for us, living rent free with all the food and like taken care of. It was great. And it got really comfortable. And most people think that like that's a good thing, you want to live a life of comfort. But my comfort zone became my discomfort zone, because it suddenly became this castle where these big walls where a lot of things were happening inside of it. But I knew inside, and I felt like there was something that I had more to offer to the world, and it couldn't be done within the confines of the castle, And so that can be a scary thought initially. This is all I know. I'm working with big people. It's very comfortable. I'm getting paid. I don't know if I were to step out, would I just get my own apartment and do my own thing? Like, I don't have exactly a vision for what, for what that would be. And I love this quote. I forgot who said it, but it's like, you jump out into the abyss and realize it's a feather bed. And, for me, it was like, I kind of came to this pivot point where I took a step back. I kind of had some like health things going on for a week. I kind of got sick, and it was a sign to me that like I just wasn't living also into alignment, because your mind and body are so intricately connected. And I took a step back for about a week, and I said, okay, I'm open to this next chapter of my life. And then beautiful things started opening up, and it came to the point where I was ready to step away, and it was a great thing for Logan and the whole team as well. Cause, it makes sense for them to have a videographer or somebody that's working with them that is full on into their mission of what they want to be creating too. So it's honoring both sides of it,
Yeah.
And so it was beautiful. All of my friendship with all the guys has evolved and gotten deeper since. And so it's been a beautiful evolution, and I love our friendship and everything now. So yeah, getting to that point, man, I just knew that there was a next step. There was kind of a glass ceiling that I was hitting, and that I knew if I wanted to grow financially, if I wanted to grow in my impact in the world and really have my unique genius be, come more online, that I needed to do something different to get different results. And then that's when I started taking the next steps, eventually building my own production company, getting into a little bit more of my own content, and so on and so forth. But I'll pause there in case you wanted to,
This is beautiful. You just gems on gems on gems. But I'm curious, like, even as you're having this epiphany, right? And I think a lot of people are going to listen to this and relate, where maybe they're not in the thing. They are having that problem too, where they're like, this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. You have this moment when you realize, and it's probably a build of like, this isn't the right fit. I need to move on. Do you just take the blinded leap of like, I don't know what the next thing is, I need to create space to figure this out and then move forward? Or did you already kind of visualize, this is what I'm doing next, leave Logan, on to the next thing?
Yeah, man. So, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people, there's so many people right now that are working jobs they dislike, but it financially feeds them, right? And so I don't live in the delusion that it's like, it's so easy to say, just, hey, quit what you hate doing, start doing what you love doing, and everything will work out, right? To a certain degree. But a lot of times people have families they have to take care of. They got to put food on the table. And I'm very understanding and compassionate for people that are doing doing what they have to do to make ends meet. But maybe it's not in their full Ikigai, which I'm happy to go into, which you briefly brought up.
Yes.
And so a lot of people right now are doing what they can get paid for, right? Because whatever reason, it's they've gone to school for it and they figured out what they can do to make money. And now the Japanese have this amazing philosophy called Ikigai, and it sounds like Ikigai, but it's pronounced Ikigai, and it's a beautiful philosophy that in the East kind of describes these 4 areas of your life that if you can fulfill, it's like a life well lived. It's like your purpose. It's your reason for being. And essentially what the Ikigai is in the cross section of what you love to do, what you're good at doing, what the world needs, and what you can get paid for is your Ikigai, right? So a lot of people are doing things right now that they're good at and they can get paid for, but the world doesn't really need it. And it's really not what they love to do, or there's a lot of artists out there that are doing what they love, and it's medicine for the planet. Maybe they're making music that is really raising the vibe when people hear it and it's great, but they're not getting paid for it, and so having the cross section of all four, eventually finding and discovering what is that thing that can align all of those to where your cup is full, to where you're living a truly fulfilled life and you're not having to sacrifice making money and living a comfortable life. You're not having to sacrifice living a fulfilled life with a service, and you're really activating what you're good at and what brings you most alive. And so for a lot of people, I'll just tell you what's worked for me. You know, I don't have the answer, but for me, I always, anytime I kind of am feeling like there's this next evolution of where my journey is taking me, I go back into silence. I either do a Vipassana meditation retreat where it's 10 days of silence and you're meditating for 10 hours a day, and it's very an internal process. And man, if you haven't done a day or 2 days alone in silence with no technology, nothing external, like you will be amazed by the amount of insight that comes through and the clarity that can come in your life. And a lot of things that can come up that can feel negative initially, but you have to kind of dust that off to get more clear in the first place. So it's like, for me, that's been always my place to go back to gain clarity on what the next step is. You know, because a lot of times we're acting as if the decisions that we're going to make are life or death. And truthfully, for the vast majority of people that are watching this, that are living a decently well comforted life, you're not going to die if you stop doing what you're doing right now. A lot of people are acting as if they will actually die if they stop doing what they're doing. And it's like, realistically, all right, if you get fired or you quit your job and you take a year off or a week off or a few days off, you're not going to die. What's going to happen is you probably have friends and family that will support you. Or if you don't, you're going to be all right. You live in America. Most people that are listening to this do, or in a world where you're not going to be, castrized, or, it's not going to be too much of a difficult experience. So I think we can really get ahead of ourselves and what the experience is, but we let the feeling of fear really override our mind from taking actions that is in the overall, vision of what we want to create for ourselves. So for me, that is what's worked. Going back into stillness, having a practice of journaling, of meditation, something that gives you an opportunity to self-reflect and apply what you've learned to reinvent yourself, because you can reinvent yourself at any given moment. And take a direction into something that is more aligned with your Ikigai, something that you can get paid for and the world needs and that you're good at. And, I just love the saying that just like imagine you're driving a car at night, right? The headlights, you can only see maybe 50, 100 feet ahead of you. If I'm driving from California to New York, I can't see the full distance. I can't see from California to New York, but what I can see is the next 100 feet in front of me. And once I get there, I will see further. And once I get to the next 100 feet, I will see further. And eventually I'm going to end up in New York. Right. But too often we focus on trying to see the destination. You're never going to fully see where the destination of life is. And if you did, what kind of life would that be if you knew how everything was going to play out? Where's the fun in that? You want the surprise, right? Yeah. So it's seeing where you can see the next 50 to 100 feet in front of you, taking the next step, recalibrating, and eventually you'll gain more insight and go from there.
So good. Literally title of the podcast, "You Are Not Going to Die. Take the Leap." People are like, play now. The Vipassana retreat, I think, is phenomenal. It's not something that I've done before, and I need to do it at some point in my life. Question for you is, how many times have you done it?
I've done it twice.
Twice.
Yeah.
10 days of just pure stillness.
Yep. Yeah. It's like, you're waking up at 4 a.m. There's the meals prepped for you. There's 8 to 10 hours of meditation time in the hall. You're not supposed to look at anybody. You're not allowed to speak. And then they have the teacher go over a discourse. That's like a video discourse that you watch every night. And man, it's a beautiful experience. I've gone to other meditation retreats and whatnot, but that was the first one I did when I was 19. Before I moved out to California, I think was super pivotal and just me making a decision that wasn't based on fear. So yeah, I went to one and then I did another one a couple of years after, and I served that one as well because it's all volunteer based. So I wanted to give back and you still do meditation as well, like 5-6 hours a day. But yeah, those were super beautiful times and challenging times.
I believe challenging. I think outside looking at people like, you sit for 10 days straight, like how hard can that be? But man, I think the most meditation I've done is an hour sitting, and you're going to dig deep in just an hour, never mind 10 days of doing it. So I can only imagine the amount of breakthroughs and realizations and God, the amount of things that you must go through mentally has got to be unbelievable. As somebody that has not only done experiences like that, I know you've done breathwork classes. I know you've traveled, and you have had, I'm sure, quite a lot of, I don't want to say life-changing experiences, but experiences that are definitely reshaping the way you see the world, probably your values and the reality that you want to create for yourself. Have there been maybe two other profound experiences or moments that have really allowed you to change who you are, change the perspective, or just have had an impact on you?
Yeah, man, there's been a multitude. Like there's been so many. The meditation retreats, like going to Sadhguru's ashram in Tennessee, that was, spending 5 days on the land there and learning the practices and applying them every day has made a profound impact on my life. Getting to eventually meet him and, a few other people that I've met that have absolutely changed my life. There was one guy when I was 19, he was a sixth ascendant from the Shaolin Temple. And he did a full kind of energetic reading on me. And it really opened my mind up to what is possible within the human potential. And when I say he did a full reading on me, it was so accurate to things that were going on in my life, the crossroads that I was at, things that I was going through health-wise. And it was like, whoa, holy shit. This dude can, by looking at me, is tapped into his own source energy, whatever you want to call it, enough to gain insight and clarity around the people around him. And it created a desire for me to go on the path of purification, both in my diet, both mentally, spiritually, to really gain that level of clarity. I really admired that. I really desired that. And so that was a huge one as well. Meeting my girlfriend now a couple of years ago was another big one, man. Just being in the reflection of another conscious individual who's taking full radical ownership of everything in their experience and can really see things in you that you might not be able to see in yourself. Going to these meditation retreats, doing 10-day silence meditation retreats are beautiful. They have their own medicine, really help you up-level your own consciousness. And unless you're in relationship, you're not going to be able to have the perception of really what your shadow is. And so going into partnership with somebody who is my partner Blue is such an amazing reflection for me constantly. Anytime we're living out of alignment, to then approach each other with love. And since the container is, such a deep friendship and one with love, and where we're not reacting to each other, but it's more of a response to where we can help each other grow and support each other on our paths. It's been, I've grown so much in the presence of her the past 2 years. So that has been an absolute massive one as well. And there's been many other, but, due to the time of the podcast, I'll just leave it there for now.
So good. There's three things that we need to hit on: Sadhguru, purity, and your girlfriend, Blue, because that's electric. Sadhguru, I think you've interviewed him 3 times at this point, maybe even more that's maybe not announced. One for yourself. Then I think you were kind of on Impaulsive for a podcast. And then I think recently, 6-7 months ago, you also got to interview him again. But the first time you interviewed him, I tipped my hat because you were able to, you get the green light 3 days in advance. So you're about to interview somebody that has had a profound impact on your life. And listening and watching that interview, you are dialed in. You are so present. You are not stuttering. You're not overthinking. You were just in the flow of the moment. I'm so curious, in a moment like that, and I'm sure there's been other big opportunities in your life, how do you remain dialed in, not fazed by the amount of pressure that could be created as a narrative in your own mind? How do you just stay so focused on the present moment that there is no time to overthink?
Yeah, man. Great question again. You're good at this. I love this. I think that for me, my experience is that when you're truly doing something that you feel like is meant for you, all anxiety drops. Man, when that happened, it was one of the peak experiences of my life, to where this person who I really just respect so much, have learned so much from, applied his teaching and his practices to impact my life, then got the opportunity within 72-hour notices to align, all these different interviews and podcasts with big celebrities and whatnot. And then I had the opportunity to curate kind of an influencer event to bring people together and interview him myself and do a live Q&A. And, I've already read so many of his books, watched so many of his videos. I'm very informed in kind of who he is, what he's creating in the world. And so I already knew the direction of what I wanted to kind of ask him to be able to provide the most value for all the viewers and listeners. And then, man, yeah, just the day of, even though it felt kind of surreal and, it's almost like kind of out of body, kind of like watching a movie kind of happen in front of you when you have those big life moments, I feel like I prepared preparation was key, and like knowing how I wanted to introduce him and the questions and whatnot. So that takes the edge off of it. And then just really being surrounded by people that I love, that I know are rooting for me, that aren't trying to judge everything. If I stutter or if I mess up, it's a container of love, and I think that when you try to make everything about you, you're going to end up suffering. When you realize that it's much bigger than you and that it's really about the people that you get to impact and the information that gets to be shared, the wisdom that other people get to access within their life, it takes the pressure off, because you're like, all right, I'm just a steward here. I am just here playing a role to evoke wisdom out of another individual, in this case, to be able to serve other people. If I'm overly concerned about my appearance or how I'm trying to come off or what I want to sound, then that's where you can mess up, and you can, the anxiety comes up, and then it becomes a less pleasant experience. But for me, I was really trying to make it about the individuals that we can impact. I just knew the opportunity at hand. And so I try to just get it out of my own way as much as possible, which can definitely be more easier said than done when you're starting. But the more you kind of get into the flow of it, the easier it is.
Oh, it's so beautiful. Yeah. The curation of the thought leaders and the people that were in the audience for that was very high level. And I just seeing the people that were there for that day, to me, it seemed like a very magical moment, and you absolutely crushed the interview. Purity. Mike Malek has, I think is that how you pronounce the last name? Malek?
Yeah.
I got to make sure. I always double checking on names.
Yep.
There's two videos separately. He looks at you and he thinks of you as somebody who is pure. I think it is very important to be pure in who you are, which then allows you to become your most authentic self. How has being pure been important for who I see today?
Yeah. For me, it's also easy to get into the trap of thinking like a perfectionism of like, I want to purify, I want to purify myself because of the way that it sounds. And it's kind of like a dogmatic kind of belief system that you can structure to enhance your ego. Or you can use it as, purification in the sense of, I really want to increase my like life energy. I want to vibrate and just be somebody that is really living in their purpose, that is healthy from the inside out and doing things that is aligned with my journey, my purpose. So it just came into all areas of my life. Again, it just comes back into really wanting to make the most out of this life. And I'm not going to be able to do that if I'm sick. I'm not going to be able to do that if, I'm playing games all day, or, if I'm watching Netflix on the couch all day, or if I'm eating processed junk foods, or if I'm not exercising, if I'm not applying these things that I know are going to create an optimal human experience and then allow me to show up in my brilliance with the utmost clarity and articulation, then I'm going to be falling short of my potential, which I obviously don't want to do. I don't think anyone does, And so, it's really just the understanding of trying to become a healthy individual and purify the system as much. And that goes into all aspects of what you intake and what you allow in your environment. So from the food to the water, to the media, to the technology, to the EMFs, to all the things. I've been really getting into biohacking the past 6 months, which has been super fun. And then to the things that, the people that you surround yourself with, to the things that you allow in via language, it's so important. The music that you listen to, all of these things are informing us in our subconscious narrative of how we're going to operate in the world. And so it's pivotal to be able to really create an environment that is going to be harmonious for you to be harmonious with the world, to really purify your system and to not let garbage in, garbage in, garbage out. So
yeah, it's a full 360 thing. It's not just one specific. It's not just one specific area, the food, the social media, the people you're surrounded with, but if you take note on all of these different things and you make a conscious effort to only allow the things that make you feel your best self, it inevitably allows you to operate at a higher level, which then just has, a ripple effect months, years down the line, because you're just then able to just see your lens of the world just completely changes because your body feels good. You're a vehicle. That's why I try to compare is like, if you're a whatever, you want to be a Honda Civic, a BMW, a Range Rover, like if that's your car, you're going to treat that thing beautifully. You're going to get that thing car wash. You're going to give it the top gasoline. You're going to make sure everything on the interior is good. But the moment you start to not take care of it, it just has a ripple effect on everything, every other bucket of your life at that point.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. It's so encompassing of all areas of our life. And that's why, becoming a healthy individual is almost a full-time job. And I feel so bad for the individuals like that work at TSA that, are surrounded by all these crazy EMFs and, surrounded by lines and lines of really stressful people trying to get somewhere, and they got to direct them and tell them what to do and what not to do. And they're under all this like harsh fluorescent lighting for like 12 hours a day. And then they got to go home and do all the other things. It's like, so many people are living lives and jobs and being in environments that is really like the anti of what is going to be, helpful to you as an individual. So there's so many different areas that impact our overall well-being. And so without getting overwhelmed, it's important to really take the first step of seeing the small changes that we can make in our diet, in the media that we consume, and all these little things that can start push us in the right direction. And then, hopefully you're living one day in a home that is free of all these toxins, and you can't escape it completely. I live in a city, but I do the best that I can to get enough sunlight throughout the day, drink enough water, eat at the right times for me, and eat the right foods that are going to support me the most, and all those things. So it's,
That's why living in LA is the best place on earth. I'm coming from Massachusetts. I know Michigan, like we grew up with winters and shoveling the cars and gray clouds for long periods of time. But the beauty of living out here is just like it really allows you to set yourself up to live healthy. Like the sunshine, the healthy eating out here, it is so, so crucial. But even when you were just talking about like if you're the TSA agent, right, and you're dealing with people all day long, and somebody can make a comment and it brings your energy down. One of the greatest hacks that I've ever added into my life, and I learned it really quickly when I started paying attention to self-development, is meditation. And through meditation, I learned to separate myself from the uncontrollables. And if somebody comes at me screaming, I don't need to allow myself to emotionally be pulled down because of this individual. And I don't need to take it personally. I can separate myself from this individual and recognize like maybe it's something that's going on within their life. It's not necessarily me. Have you been able, is that something that's like crucial in your life today, where it could be business opportunities? It could be maybe you're dealing with situations with your girlfriend or friendships. Like, how do you mentally stay sharp even when there's a lot of uncontrollables in this world?
Yeah, beautiful question. Again, I think for me, it's like, if you're always a creature of circumstance, if you're always at will of the people that are around you and what they say and what they do to you, you're not a free individual. You're completely tied to the things that are happening around you. Sadhguru gives this amazing analogy of like, imagine you're driving in traffic to the airport, right? And it can be frustrating. It's bumper to bumper traffic. And it's like, kind of like a frustrating experience. Now you get to the airport, you take off in the plane, and you look back down to the traffic. And it's kind of a nice experience. It's like, oh, it's like pretty. Look at all these like little dots on this earth that's moving at fast speeds, and I'm in this metal plane. It's, and so the only thing that changed was the distance from the traffic. So in life, if you're going to have interactions with people and work with people, and all the things that happen in living life, you're going to come up with people and circumstances that are, potentially going to be triggering for you. And the reason that they're triggering for you is, first of all, you have a strong identification with your own thought and emotions. So your mind and your body are so weaved into the ego personality that you've created, and it's a process of evolution. But the more that you identify with your own thought and emotions, the more you're going to be at will with how people treat you, and you're going to become more of a reactive individual, right? So the scale of growth really is from unconsciousness to consciousness, from reactivity to choice, to where no matter what somebody does to me in my external circumstance, or what somebody says or what happens, I don't put my sense of self and my sense of well-being in another thing happening a certain way. Because if I'm always going to put my state of being or peace and happiness in how things are happening around me, I will never find peace and happiness within my life. Things are always going to happen that you don't like to happen in your life. And again, going back to what I said earlier, you wouldn't want it to. If everything happened the way that you wanted to in life, there would be no surprise, there would be no growth, it would be a kind of a bland experience. It's like the Truman Show. So it's for me coming back to having a practice of stillness or meditation where you can start to become aware of the observer within you. And when you have these thoughts that come up that kind of like intrude into your state of being, you don't identify with them. It's a process, and it happens over time. The more that you kind of come to this place of stillness and meditation, that way you get a reference point next time you're actually in real life and you get the opportunities to make a different choice. You have the awareness that I am actually the observer of what's happening right now. This isn't happening to me. And so a lot of people are just so identified in this sense of separateness that, and suffering is inherent. And so it's coming back to the place where you're dissolving these beliefs of separation within you, to be in control of your circumstance and not be at the will of what's happening around you, but have the choice of how you want to be at any given moment.
So well said. I think what allows you to approach your day and your life from that perspective, and I know you mentioned it earlier and we didn't get a chance to dive into it, is you take, I think, your morning, you can call it morning rituals or morning routines very seriously. And I think that allows you to create momentum for the day, or allows you to kind of set the intention for the day. What do those rituals look like? I think previously you had talked about a 45 meditation every morning. Are there a handful of things that non-negotiable, they have to get done in your morning, which then allow you to kind of step into the day as your highest self and in a great headspace?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, it's, waking up before the sun. It's going to be different on different days. Some days it could be 5, some days it's 6, some day I don't do it, but I try my best always to get up before the sun and get into my morning practice. So after I go to the bathroom, do my thing, I go onto my yoga mat and I have some preparatory asanas that I do. This is kind of a 5 to 10 minute, flow where I'm just getting into my body and waking up the system. And then I have about a 45-minute Kriya and breathwork practice. So it's it's a combination of different mudras, of different breath holds. And that for me allows me to really energize the system in a profound way. And, from there I have, I drink my water. I, then go and do right now it's been 3 days a week, going to the chiropractor and then going to work out right after. So either some sort of CrossFit workout or some sort of functional patterns movement or something that really allows me to get into my animal and get into my flow. Like for me, if I'm not exercising, if I'm not sweating, 5, 6, 7 days a week, I just know I'm not going to be in my optimal self. And so for me, exercise is such a huge component. And I always kind of just do it after around 8, 9 a.m. And then, after those 2-3 hours of giving myself the time to really fill my own cup up, then I can go into the work day and I can go into relationships and I can go into everything. And I've fed myself, I'm not seeking outwardly grabbing, trying to extract joy from other people because I'm full. I got what I need. I'm happy, And so it's these little behaviors over time really are fundamental in creating you who you really are. So that's been it for me, roughly.
I live by the philosophy: you win the morning, you win the day. It's not about what time you wake up. It's about knocking those things out for yourself before you attack the world. And when you're able to do that, you show up to the world a better person. You're a better person of service. And then no matter what type of work you do, you end up showing up the greatest version because you've knocked off all those things that allow you to feel your best self. So it's by the time you sit down at 9, 10 a.m. to start answering emails or thinking about business, you're firing off. You've been up for 3 hours. You've gotten food in your system. You've had that workout, and it allows you to just to operate from such a different level versus wake up, roll out of bed, and start working. It's just your body is not woke. Your mind isn't there. Maybe you need to warm up the soul a little bit. There's something to be said about giving yourself, like you said, fill your cup up before you fill the world's or anyone else's. And I think that is just such a crucial thing for people to take into their own lives.
Huge.
Talk to me about, and I mentioned earlier when we didn't get to dive into it as well, Blue. You guys literally are electric. The love is undeniable. The way I've seen it in vlogs, you guys, like, I can feel it through the laptop that I'm watching. And what I admire about it, so many things, but you guys are meant to be together. How do people find that person that is truly the right person for them? I outside looking in, there's a lot of people out here where to me, it just seems like temporary. It's killing time. There's a lot of bicker. There's a lot of fighting. It doesn't feel genuine. And of course, every relationship is going to have its ups and downs. Don't get me wrong. But I think what you guys have is very special, and I can feel it. And I've never even met you in person. So I think there's something to be said about that. Talk to me about, how does one attract the right person into their life?
Beautiful, man. Thanks again for that reflection. It's been such a beautiful journey. One of the most expansive experiences of my life, just being in partnership with her. And, we've had, a lot of challenging experiences that have made us grow both in individuals and together in partnership. For me, and I think for her as well, like, we were both at places before we met. We were both at places in our life where we weren't actively seeking for a partnership. And I think that's, the first kind of misconception is that, like, you go out, you find this partner, there's all these dating apps, right? Like, not knocking it, but if you can get to the state of being to where you're fulfilled and you're happy and you have this peace with or without circumstance looking a certain way, whether it's, I have a certain girlfriend, I have this certain partnership, and when the flower blossoms, the bees will come. So all you have to do is focus on creating the best version of yourself. Like, it's just, if you show up in your genius and you're one day doing what makes you come most alive, you're doing the things that, really showcase your genius, people are going to be attracted to that, right? The bees will come. You're going to start attracting individuals no matter what field you're in, whether it's public speaking or it's underwater basket weaving, like whatever the thing is. If you focus on being the best version of yourself and doing what you do well, people will be attracted to that. There's a magnetism that creates. And then again, my good friend Peter Crone has this quote: "Life will present you with people and circumstances to reveal where you're not free." So it's like life is a revelatory process. People are going to come into your field to teach you lessons, and the hardships will come to have the evolution of your soul to progress, and so like that's really I feel like the purpose of life is for us to come here and to evolve and for our souls to realize where we're limited, and then break the bounds of that to become a more free individual, the karmic ties that we have. And so if you're in the process of upgrading your consciousness, if you're in the process of becoming the best version of yourself, then for me, naturally, it just happened that we crossed paths and there was this magnetism towards each other. We were attracted to that quality of the fire for self-realization in one another. And then we just became best friends, and it really was just a friendship. There was nothing romantic for a few months. And then we kind of had a ceremonial experience where we just saw each other in a much deeper way. And the foundation of our friendship was there. We really saw each other in a deep, profound way. And from that point forward, man, it's been such, I can't really even put it to words, but
you don't need to.
Yeah.
You don't need to. I can feel it, man. And it's amazing to see, because at least I can only speak for my own opinion, and I can't speak on behalf of others, but as a single male, it's inspiring to see, because I know what is possible. And I very much have definitely spent the last 5+ years of just investing in myself, figuring out who I am, being self-aware to know what my strengths are, what my weaknesses are. I really have had that solitude, and not to say I'm seeking it, but I'm much more open to it than I was a couple years ago, where I was like, closed door. I'm not giving anybody my time and energy right now, because I don't even know who I am. But to see what you guys have and have built, it is inspiring in many ways. And so it's really something beautiful to see outside looking in.
For sure. Yeah. And like, listen, I'm not saying you have to go become a stone statue and just let all the things in life come to you. Again, if you get clear on what you want, you write down the qualities of the partner that you would like to be with. If you have a vision of creating a family for yourself, like listing out the qualities that this person has, how do they show up in the world? Even physical attributes, the qualities that they imbibe. Maybe they're a hilarious person. Maybe they're super deep into philosophical studies. Maybe they're super into the study of yoga and all the 8 limbs, or like whatever the thing is. Get clear on what is a partner that you would really enjoy to spend the rest of your life with, and then think, what kind of partner would that partner want? What kind of qualities would they expect? Would a queen expect out of a king? What qualities would a queen expect out of a king? And there you have some answers of some work to do for yourself, not saying that I need to do these to eventually, get something out of somebody one day, but create the qualities within yourself. Again, the magnetism will come and people will funnel into your life. So that's been huge. And then it just happened with Blue, where I was at a breathwork class one day and we ran into each other. I like knocked over a genie's lamp with my backpack that was just like on a table. And then she like ran up to me and became the genie, quote unquote, and asked me to make 3 wishes. And it was just like such a cool start to an amazing friendship and partnership. And, coincidences, synchronicities and coincidences really just kind of start happening. I feel like when you're in the flow of life and not in some sort of projection of what you want to get out of it. If that makes sense.
So good. So good. The genies thing is hilarious. The last thing I want to hit on today, and you had mentioned it before we even got to the podcast, how, you've been kind of off the radar. You haven't really been on podcasts as somebody that was like, a visual creator, putting out vlogs here and there. I think you had been on, I could have swore you've been on a couple of Impaulsive episodes, and I was trying to find them before, and I was like, was it just a few? Like, why can't I find these clips? But you've been behind the scenes for a while now, building your business, which respect. I know what it takes to kind of go in the shadows and build. But talk to me kind of what has this process been like for you of building Meraki Media? This is definitely something that is huge. That is like your next thing. And I really love the leave a piece of your heart in your art, which is a big part of kind of just like the vision of, I don't want to say the vision, but it's like a core of what you're trying to build. And so talk to me about what it's been like for you, just kind of being behind the scenes and trying to build this out.
Yeah, absolutely. So like for me, again, going back to that pivot point where I was realizing I wanted to create things at a bigger scale. I didn't want to have this glass ceiling, and I wanted to work with creatives who really their purpose and their passion is to wake up the world in their own way, whether that be through health and wellness, or it doesn't matter what it is, but it's, the word Meraki. So Meraki Media came to me, the word I found, and it came to me, and it means to leave a piece of yourself in your creation. Leave a piece of your heart in your art, or there's something that really kind of makes you come most alive. And I want to work with people who have a big mission and passion for helping the planet. And so for me, I was like, okay, I want to be able to create a vehicle, a support system for a lot of creatives to funnel into that have podcasts, that are content creators, that are doing documentaries, photography, that are really aligned with our mission. And my expertise in building out and helping start the Impaulsive Podcast, I did a couple hundred episodes with them, really gave me an amazing knowledge and expertise of the camera gear, how to actually shoot the episodes, how to format it for YouTube, the titles, the thumbnails, all that goes into really crossing over the content that you want to put out and helping reach people in the digital and social age that we live in. So going back to that story of the Ikigai, like I found out what I was good at, and I know what the world kind of needs, and in one way that I can support it. And I know I can get paid for this business. And I personally love supporting creatives that I know have an amazing message, and I want to support those people to get their message out to more people. And so, it started with just kind of an idea, and then eventually evolved into all the connections that I had obviously helped, and people kind of align. When you have a beautiful idea, I think things, for me at least, synchronistically started coming into place. And it's been an amazing journey the past year and a half of really growing Meraki into a place where we're supporting a lot of podcasters, people with their documentaries, doing a lot of influencer marketing and social media management. And for me, it allows me to support people with the knowledge and skill sets that I have, obviously also build a massive business that feeds me financially and creates resources for myself to be able to create at any scale without being super limited. I think a lot of creatives can get really bogged down by not having the resources, right, financially to do the things that they want to do, right? Travel, get the gear, do the things, have the time freedom to even pursue the things. And so for me, like, I'm playing a long game here. I know I'm young, I'm 24. I have this long vision of what I want to create and the type of content that I want to impact with people. And over the course of the next 6 months, now that I've kind of created the back end system and the financial resources to do what I want at scale, now I can really do it, not being super limited by resources. And then I'm going to be starting to, really create some dope things that I'm really excited for the world to see. And I'm really excited to see for myself what comes out of it. But it was very intentional to be able to create the foundation of this business that supports the passions to come online in my own kind of like dharmic journey of storytelling, of more public speaking, of sharing wisdom and ancient wisdom and making it more viral and in today's age and going from there. So yeah, man, it's been a beautiful journey.
It's awesome to hear. If I was a betting man, and I am in people, I would be willing to bet that this is going to become whatever that vision is in your mind is going to become exactly that. The only thing that hasn't happened is time hasn't caught up yet. So please continue on, because as a creator, I know and recognize the importance of what services you're providing. Like first four and a half years, I pretty much just did 99% of the production or the editing and all that jazz myself, because I was like, I need to do it. I'm the podcaster. But as a creator, the greatest realization you can have is if you want to operate at your highest level, you need to put people in place to allow you to do that. And the greatest thing I ever did was started outsourcing the production, which then gave me the time and space and freedom to think about where am I going instead of being head down worrying about the day-to-day stuff. So what's your there is so much more to come in this whole podcast and like that in this world of just content creation. So it's going to be a wild ride watching it outside looking in. So please just keep the pedal to the metal, my friend.
Thank you, man. Yeah, I'm very excited about it. It feels really fulfilling as well to have like friends that I know are amazing creators. Like they have such medicine for the planet. They're great at what they do. And yet the whole social world and creating content that is both in quantity and quality up to par and everything, understanding the algorithms. Like there's so many things to learn as a creator to really get your message out there. And a lot of creators just want to be in their genius. They don't want to have to know what camera gear to buy. They don't want to have to, do all the technical things. And it can kind of take suck the juice out of the creation, which is the fun part anyways. So You're right. And I'm glad you're doing that yourself. And what we've really specialized in is just, outsourcing to us. We have a team of editors and project managers and shooters, if you're in LA, to go film the podcasts. So you literally just show up, you do your interview, we record it, we take it, we edit it, we create the clips, we do everything. So it's like you just being your genius. And the more people that we can really help with the service, it's just so fulfilling for us to be able to see people who have such a potent message, but they haven't had the right support system. They haven't had the right team. They haven't had the right know-how. And the people that have, it's just a lot easier to have somebody else do it that gets the message as well, right? We're not just working with anybody. It's just we're working with people who are extremely aligned and have an important message. Individuals like yourself that are doing beautiful things with your show. So man, it's been super fulfilling.
Yeah, you're too intentional just to take on any client. I know for a fact you're checking off a couple boxes before you take them on. So I know that to be true about you. Final 5, and then we'll wrap up. These are just 1-sentence answers, and they're pretty quick. How can people learn to give themselves permission to follow their interests and their ideas?
How can people give themselves permission to follow their interests and ideas? Yeah. I think that if you contemplate what the opposite is, it will give you fuel to the fire to really discover what makes your life come most online.
It's great. If you could go back and tell yourself one piece of advice at any point in your life, what would it be and when?
Man, that's tough. I would just say that, you're doing great. I would go back to myself as a teenager and I would, say, hey, maybe I would go to myself as a 13, 14-year-old and be like, yo, like try this practice, try this thing. It'll help you start even sooner. But like, truthfully, I think I look at my past and part of my life, and as I'm going into a paragraph here, I don't look at it as I made any wrong decisions. I feel like my path has been laid out super beautifully.
That's the best perspective to have. Third question: what's an area of your life you need to put more effort into?
Man, I'm putting so much effort into so many areas of my life, but I would say storytelling in my own creative endeavors that isn't business. Business is a very creative process, but it's not creative in the way that art making is, and cinematic storytelling and photography. And so I've kind of put a lot of that stuff on pause this past year, and now it's coming back online, which I'm extremely excited for.
He's coming back. Fourth question for you. First step anyone can take to reaching their inner potential.
Take a day out of your month and put it into a space of self-reflection. Go into nature, go into a space where you have no technology, you have a journal, and you can just be with yourself.
It's great. Fifth and final question. Somebody has listened to the last 64 minutes of this podcast. They're about to wrap up listening to this episode. They got a lot of heaters in their mind for sure. A lot of gems were taken in this podcast. But what is one challenge you have for the listener today as they finish listening to this episode?
After this podcast, go and take one action that is in the direction of living your dreams. So whatever that looks like, it can be the smallest thing. Just go and take one action in the direction of what you want to be creating. Instead of being in the place where you're repeatedly doing what you don't love, do something that is in the direction of your dreams, whether that's picking up a book in the area of field that you want to learn from, whether that's signing up for a meditation course, whether that's hiring a personal coach, whether that's signing up for the gym, whatever it is that is going to push you in that direction. Just take one simple action today and your future self will thank you.
So good. Andre, thank you so much for taking the time to be on this podcast today. There's one thing I always greatly appreciate is people's time. I don't care if it's 10 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours. Time is something that I do not take lightly. First off, thank you for the time. Just keep, this doesn't need to be said because I already know you're going to keep doing it, but keep being yourself and sharing just who you are at that high level when you can come back and storytell, because just through what I've seen from you from afar the last couple of years and then really getting ready for this podcast, you are so intentional. You are so woke. You are just in your power, and it's not luck. It's pure, just like I kind of introed in the beginning of this podcast. It is, you've done the deep work that has allowed you to operate in the capacity that you operate, that's allowed you to create a reality for yourself that is the life you want to live. And there's always going to be more areas that are being worked on, but I have nothing but respect. I admire you. Jonah spoke very highly of you. And I really just appreciate taking the time to be on the podcast today, man.
Thank you so much, man. It's been an honor. I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, and it just gets me excited to do more content like this and go on to more interviews and podcasts, because this really does fulfill me in a beautiful way, and I haven't been doing it so much. So thanks for being an amazing reminder and reflection for me to step more into this. And I'm excited to continue to see you evolve in your journey and get to know you more on an individual level, man. What you're doing is beautiful on the planet, and I'm excited to continue to grow our friendship.
Thank you, man. Those words mean more than I could put into, I could say right now. Ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed this podcast today, I have a small little favor to ask for you. Please screenshot this episode on whatever platform you're listening in on. Post it to your IG story. Tag Andre. He is at Andre Duqum. That's ANDREDUQUM. Tag me at Bobbbaaaay. That's BO, 3 B's, 4 A's, and a Y. Share the podcast on your IG story. Let us know, what was the biggest takeaway? What was the learning? How did this specific episode change your perspective? I would be so curious to know. In the description of the podcast, I will have Andre's Instagram linked up. I'll have his YouTube linked up. And I will also have Meraki Media linked up. That is MERAKIMEDIA.com. Check it out. Even if you don't need podcast services or anything in the content world, you should check it out. And if you do, maybe you should shoot them a DM or email. Is there anywhere else I should be plugging people up, Andre?
That sounds pretty thorough to me.
That sounds good?
Yeah.
It's great, man. Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you so much, bro. Bless.
Bless up. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Bearded Man Podcast. See ya!